Man, of course, we told you tonight we were going to do something very special, and Sister Tracy is absolutely delivering. We told you a couple of weeks ago we were going to have HARVEY JETT from the original founding member and guitarist of Black Oak, Arkansas. So, Sister Tracy, take it away with whatever you need to say.
Well, can you hear me, HARVEY?
Yes, I can.
Oh, great. I'm just so happy that we have all this technology that seems to be working in our favor.
That's great.
But for the folks out there who don't know, we've been talking about it for a few weeks now. This is William HARVEY JETT, who is the, one of the founding members of Black Oak, Arkansas, one of the lead guitar players, just an incredible guitar player and wonderful songwriter. And
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And we're just really honored to have you here with us tonight. And we've got a few, fans that have questions that we'll get to. I know 20 minutes isn't a long time, but we did want to just kind of start out. Maybe if you could just kind of tell us, well, first of all, is it true that you guys got your name, Black Oak, Arkansas, from a member of Iron Butterfly? Is that a true story?
Well, actually, it was the management of Iron Butterfly. That we were in L.A. In '71 when we did the first album titled Black Oak, Arkansas, and we were called Nobody Else, spelled with a K. And we didn't recognize Black Oak as a town that we would want to call it. It was more like a town we were trying to get away from.
Right.
And we were looking for the big city and the bright lights. But
they thought that matched you better, huh?
Yeah, the management for Iron Butterfly, they saw what we really were because we stood out in L.A. We were different. And when they came to us one day and they said, you guys should call yourselves Black Oak, Arkansas, because when you say that name and look at you, it tells the story.
Right. And well, I could see that. Yeah.
It stuck with us. Yeah. So we said, okay.
I also read about, that you guys got your first PA system from that was kind of maybe lifted from a local school way back then.
Yeah, actually, when I joined the band, Jim Dandy and Ricky Lee, the 12-string player, they were the two originals. Jim was from Black Oak, and then Monette, Arkansas was like 30 miles from there. But they needed some equipment, and so they knew this high school had a PA system, so they went into the high school and
borrowed
Jim loved Coca-Cola. He was a Coke freak, Coca-Cola.
Right.
And he swiped a case of Coke. He had borrowed his dad's car, but he swiped a case of Cokes. And they stashed the PA system, but he forgot and left the Cokes in there. And his dad heard about the burglary.
Oh, no.
Thought he'd teach his son a lesson. Didn't know about the PA, turned him in for a case of Cokes, and then said, well, they stole the PA too.
Oh.
So they got 7-year suspended sentence.
Oh, boy. Yeah, because I did hear about the suspended sentence for, and then also because you guys started out playing in a grain silo, right?
Yeah, they rehearsed in a grain silo to start out.
Yeah, so the story just kind of went like that the PA system.
But what was funny, when we were already big and ready to go to Europe, we couldn't go to Europe because of their suspended sentence.
Oh.
They had a 7-year suspended sentence.
Oh.
And as soon as it was up, I think we went to Europe and opened for Ozzy probably the next week.
It's crazy when you read the story, about just the basic, bone story about Black Oak, Arkansas, and, kind of how you guys got together and everything just seems like, I know to you it probably didn't seem like it was happening that fast, but it just seems like, wow, you went out to LA, then you signed with Stax. I just watched a movie the other night about Stax, the recording studio.
Yeah,
so, I mean, that had to make your head swim a little bit to put out that second album that, got a lot of attention. Yeah, so it had to be kind of kind of a shock to someone to go from where you were in Arkansas to playing in LA, and then gosh, guys like Bruce Springsteen were opening for you guys. What was that like?
Yeah, we had Kiss, Leonard Skinner, Bruce Springsteen, Cheech and Chong. They were some of our opening acts.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah, there were some great people. We enjoyed meeting them.
I bet you did. I just bet that it seemed, kind of surreal. I've also heard, lots of people, in the industry over the years have said some great things about you guys. What was it, Skinner's guitar player that called you guys the first Southern rock band?
Yeah, that was Ed King. Yeah, he and I were good friends.
Yeah,
and,
that's a big compliment.
Yeah, they opened for us a lot, and he really liked our music.
Well, and there was nobody that sounded like you guys.
Yeah, we hit it big in '71. We did a 50-city tour. We were the opening band for Iron Butterfly, and they were on their way out because the music was and they were breaking up, and so it was kind of like a farewell money type tour, I guess. I don't know. But it was a bad thing for them, for us to be opening, because we were young and crazy and wild and a new style of country rock, Southern rock.
Yeah.
And we were just a wild bunch. Somebody did an interview, or Rock Magazine said that we looked like a bunch of wild buffaloes and amphetamines.
I know. We were just talking about that earlier, about that.
About that particular quote.
But after that 50-city tour, we had our own tour, and we had such names as we mentioned that were opening for us for a couple of years or so. But we never had a hit until we got Jim Dandy. But Tom Dowd was Atlantic's top producer. He, Ray Charles, Aretha Franklin, Crosby, Stills, Nash, Skinner, Allman Brothers, just big names of Atlantic Records. Well, Ahmet Ertegun, the president of Atlantic, sent Tom Dowd to Miami. We went to Criteria Studios, and his goal was to get us a hit, because we were already a big-name band touring, but we didn't have a radio hit. And the funny thing about it, 20 years earlier, Tom Dowd was the engineer on the song Jim Dandy by Laverne Baker.
Yeah, Laverne Baker. And I heard about who recommended that song to you, and I want you to continue because I want to know if that's true. Go ahead with the story.
You talking about Elvis?
Yeah, I am talking about Elvis.
No, it was not Elvis. I'm sorry to tell you that.
Okay, I wondered.
Yeah. Well, when Tom Dowd got us in the studio at Criteria in Miami, he was the engineer 20 years earlier with the song. So he told us to go out first and play our stuff, and he was listening to it, looking for a hit. We'd come back in, he'd say, well, that's a good song, but it's not a hit. And we'd go back and play something else. We did this over and over. And finally, he said, do you guys ever heard of this song, Jim Dandy? We were already calling Jim Dandy because his dad's favorite song was that song. And we said, yeah, we know that song. He said, well, go out there and make a little Southern rock to it. And he said, Harvey, you play slide guitar. And I said, okay. And we went out there and jazzed it up and put a little Southern rock to it, and it became a hit.
And it was
Tom Dowd that told us to do it.
How did Elvis get involved in that story? Like, was that just something?
Elvis had nothing to do with it.
Just the strangest rumors that people start, I
know. We did not know Elvis. None of us ever talked to Elvis while I was in the band. I was in the band first 7 years, 3 gold albums.
Well, yeah, and I noticed too that, not for lack of credit to the other guys in the band that continued on after you left, but it does kind of look like, if you look at the timeline, once you left, it never really, there was never really the level of success as far as the album sales and all that kind of stuff goes after you left that there was when you were in the band. And I'm not saying just timing or whatever, but it just seems like that after you left, that the best days were kind of, as far as, commercial.
Well, I was the riff man. Jim Dandy was lyrics. I was the riff man. And I wrote 5 out of 8 songs. 5 out of 8 songs on our first album, which was the biggest seller. I wrote 5 out of 8.
Yeah.
Great album.
It is
or lyrics.
It is a great album. And I did notice that the songwriting credits, because I wanted to look that up, and I'm like, gosh, Mr. Jett here is no slouch on the songwriting aspect. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I had no clue that.
Well, see, we were young and we were inexperienced in the music business, and so I know exactly what happened. It's like I was a fly on the wall, but I really wasn't there. The management probably came to our management out in L.A. and says, "Look, I just want to let you know that a couple of years y'all gonna be working for Harvey and Jim Dandy." And our manager probably says, "Well, why is that?" Because everybody whoever writes the songs makes the money. And so then our manager comes to us one day and says, "Hey, we're going to have a band meeting. We're going to all love each other in brotherly love and have all songs written by Black Oak." And that way he'll get credit for songs. He never wrote a song, but he'll get credit for it. A drummer never wrote a song.
Yeah, that's kind of
There's several members that never wrote a song, but they get credit for it.
Sketchy territory.
Yeah, kind of a nice way of saying, I'm basically going to do you dirty. I mean,
so who got ripped off? Harvey Jett.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, and I hear these stories so much from the music industry, and it breaks my heart every time because the songwriters, that's the real bread and butter of the music. That's.
I thought it was a great idea. We all grew up together. We're going to die together. In our minds, and we just all share like a commune,
Funny how in your 20s you think that you can see 20 years down the road,
Yeah.
Now, like I said, we want to have you back on for a part 2 because I have so many questions, but I'd like to just ask a little bit about what made you kind of decide to walk away from Black Oak when they were pretty much, would you say, at their peak, kind of?
Yeah, well, after the touring, we were like nonstop touring for at least 3 years. After that 50-city tour we did with Iron Butterfly, we were on the road nonstop. So there was a lot of drugs, alcohol, not hard drugs, just light drugs. Cocaine hadn't really came around at that time. But still, there was a lot of drugs, alcohol, a lot of partying, rock stars.
Sure, rock and roll lifestyle, whatever. Yeah.
And I was totally depressed, really worrying about life and death. I think we had lost a young man at a party. He had died in Memphis. He was our light show man, and young 23, I think. His, early death like that shook me, and I'm like, what's going on? What's life all about? What's death all about? So one day the band went to see the movie The Exorcist. It was December of 1973, and normally I would want to go, but something told me just not to go, and I stayed there. I wound up having a talk with God, and I told him, I said, I don't know how to pray, but if you're real, show me, and I'll do whatever you tell me to do. And about that moment, oil started pouring over my head. Went over real slow over my head and come out my toes. I felt a peaceful feeling. I said, okay, that's good enough. Actually, what I said was, I'll never forget what I said because I didn't know how to say, well, praise God, well, hallelujah.
Sure.
I didn't know how to say that. So I just said, I was sitting there and I felt it go at my toes. And I said, that's not bad.
Right. So, I mean, that's pretty much of a sign.
6 months later, I left the band,
Did the guys...
I quit partying. I just quit partying. I quit smoking, drinking, and I wasn't into it anymore. My heart changed. I wasn't into it anymore. And our songs were becoming very sexual,
kind of risque,
erotic, and we were headed in that direction and being the hottest, nastiest band around. And some of us didn't wear a shirt on stage because we were trying to be the sexual image and Jim Dandy.
You just weren't feeling it at that point anymore.
It's just something that all of a sudden one day I just Peter Green of Fleetwood Mac, he went through the same thing. He had kind of a different experience as he tripped out on LSD, but mine was just, I was straight as an arrow, and I just said, "Show me if you're real," and I had filled his oil, and so what can I say? I
Wow.
left 6 months later.
Did the other guys in the band, like when you, because I know I read that you hear all these stories about horrible breakups and just, but I read that you actually gave them like a 30-day notice that you were leaving. Is that true?
Yeah, that was when the management found out that I was leaving, and he could see that I was carrying a Bible. I had lifted a Gideon's Bible. I guess it was okay to take it, but I started carrying a Gideon's Bible from a hotel room, and I quit partying, and they could tell something had changed. And so anyway, the management says, "Look, if you'll do a 30-day notice, give us a 30-day notice. Let's tour Europe. We got a chance to go to Europe. We're open for Ozzy, and just after you get back, you can leave."
Wow. Did the guys just kind of trip on the fact that you'd had this, kind of, because that's a massive, a massive change, not only, I mean, for you personally in your life, but the guys in the band, and that you'd known them for so long, they had to have kind of taken that a little rough, I would think, at first.
Yeah. Things just changed, and I just couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Can I ask you this, Harvey? Are you still in touch with anybody from the old Black Oak days, or no?
Yes, I'm still in touch with Pat, and I was in touch with Ricky Lee right up to his passing.
Oh, yeah, and I did want to give my condolences, about that, because I know there are a couple guys that you have lost over the years, past member. Now, Pat Daugherty was bass guitar, right?
Yeah,
correct?
Bass guitar.
Yeah. And I noticed, there were several guys that they've tried over the years to put on guitar, but nobody really ever seems to match up to Harvey Jett,
That's a good question, Sister Tracy, because being the guy that was like in the first Southern rock band, I would love to know, who are some of your very favorite Southern rock music bands? Do you have any, Harvey?
Well, Eric Clapton was a big influence on me. Jimi Hendrix, and let's see, Peter Green, actually, of the early Fleetwood Mac before the Girls.
Sure, yes.
Early Peter Green was a big influence on me on the album Then Play On.
Yeah, we're big Peter Green fans, so.
Yeah, that's a classic album, and it had a great influence on me. And of course, Jimi Hendrix and people, in the 70s, they were just so many great. Stevie Ray Vaughan, I love his style. There's just so many great guitar players. So many. I just feel like I am nothing compared to so many artists.
Oh, so not true, because, I can hear now that you mentioned some of your influences, when I listen to you do solos and things like that and even on your newest release, by the way, guys, Harvey has a new CD out. It's not brand spanking new. When was this recorded exactly, Harvey? The Eagles
Actually,
Flight?
I've had this CD for several years, and I started out with having it on cassette.
Oh, wow.
And but I used to travel quite a bit. Once I left the band, I traveled for about 13 years, and I actually still do concerts everywhere.
Wow.
And so I've slowed down a little bit because of COVID, but I'm getting invitations and getting ready to do some more concerts.
Well, hopefully you'll come out to the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this CD does really well. I've got a website, if you don't mind me mentioning.
Oh, absolutely do.
Okay, it's www.harveyjettsmusic, HARVEYJETTS, HarveyJettsmusic.com.
And guys, I gotta say, this CD is titled Eagles Flight, and Harvey Jett is a born again Christian, and this album, I don't know if you would call it necessarily gospel, because it doesn't really fit into any of those kind of molds that people try to. I hate it when people try to put a label on music, because I think the message is clear, the lyrics and everything, the message is clear, but yet you still hear, it's still Harvey Jett shredding on electric guitar, and I think it's great, because it might give some people who, maybe might not ever hear those kinds of messages through the type of music they listen to. This would give them the opportunity to do so. So I think that's pretty cool, and it's a great CD. It's you haven't lost anything in all these years.
Thank you so much.
I second that. Well,
absolutely. And Harvey, I'm sorry that this 20 minutes seemed like it lasted about 2. But
we're going to play a song from the CD, though.
We're going to play actually the title track off of Harvey's new CD, Eagles Flight. And we would love to maybe perhaps later in the spring or early summer have you back for a part 2, because I have a whole literally 2 pages here of questions that I didn't even get to half of them. So, if you would be interested, we would love to have you back on in the near future.
Sure, I would love to.
Well, Harvey, it's been great talking to you, and we're going to go ahead and move right into this new CD and the title track, which is the first track on the CD, titled Eagles Flight. And we thank you so much for being so gracious and kind and cool enough to...
Yeah, thank you, Harvey.
...to spend this time with us. So...
yes. Well, thank you guys so much for having me, and you guys stay warm and stay safe.
We will, and you too. Blessings, and we will be talking to you in the near future.
Yeah, thank you, Harvey.
And thanks so much again. Thank you for the CD, and you have a great spring. Spring is sprung, so enjoy it, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks so much. Good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.